When I first sat down to write this talk, I had a vision in my head, a room full of hundreds of designers come together to make the world a better place. And in a room full of people who already believed in the power of design to do good in the world, I thought, what better purpose could I possibly have than giving them the tools they needed to change the world themselves? It seemed so straightforward then. And even at the beginning of the month, when I first gave this talk to Denver for my coworkers to get their feedback, I didn't fully understand the magnitude of change and struggle we were all about to undergo. All around us, our battle with COVID-19 has left its mark on humanity. People are fighting for their lives and their livelihood. Hospitals around the world are overwhelmed. Hundreds of thousands of people have been infected, tens of thousands of people have died. What's more, millions of people have lost their job, and many of those who haven't are being forced to choose between their paychecks and their health. I have to choose this week whether or not personally I am going to go and work 12 hours a day from my Jeep in my company parking lot, or if I'm going to stay and take care of my pregnant wife and my child and limit our risk of exposure to this disease. And what's worse is that experts tell us things are going to get worse before they get better. The odds are great that most people in this room will suffer in some way from the virus that seems to be all around us, controlling nearly every aspect of our lives right now. Indeed, so many of you are watching this from home today. I'm recording this from home today, having been driven out from our work, our colleagues, our friends, and family by a deadly threat that humanity doesn't even fully understand. And as I prepared to record this talk, I began to wonder if talking about changing the world was even a priority right now, in a moment where so many people are struggling just to get through the day to day, just to live in the moment and try and stay healthy and happy and alive. But in moments like we find ourselves in right now, it's easy to give in the darkness. When we feel we have no control, we give up our power. And yet, here I am, talking to you today about changing the world. Seems heavy, right? Difficult, right? Impossible, right? Yet here I am. Here we are. Difficult times have come, but they have not come to stay. It is imperative to understand this. Even though we're fighting for our lives and the lives of everyone we know and love right now, understanding that you have the power to make the world a better and brighter place, even in the darkest of times, is absolutely necessary. Because in that darkness, now more than ever, we have more opportunity and more need to bring a brighter light into the world than many generations ever will. And sometime in the next 20 minutes, someone listening to these words is going to come up with an idea to change the world. And if that sounds improbable, or indeed impossible, let's take a step back from our lofty ambitions and talk about what makes this group of people listening today perfectly capable of changing the world. Let's talk about what it takes to change the world. Let's talk about some of the designers that have changed the world. And let's talk about our mantra that's going to guide us, focus us, and shape us. It all comes down to three things: your skills, your desire, your daring. I can, I will, I must. That's our mantra today. I can, I will, I must. First and foremost, you need to recognize the skills that you have. So many of you here today are in the design sphere, where giving and getting feedback is a staple of our day-to-day lives. We're open and honest with our colleagues about their work and expect them to be the same with us. However, we are constantly selling ourselves short, not wanting to believe in the true power that we hold within. That's why things like imposter syndrome, depression, and anxiety are common in the UX, design, and creative worlds. And I want everyone here right now to stop what you're doing, take a second, and ask yourself, what am I really good at? It doesn't have to be work related. It doesn't have to be design related. There's no limits here. I want to know what you're really good at, because this is your can, and I can, I will, I must. What can you do? If you need a minute to think about it, let me tell you a story about someone struggling to find their I can. Kim White is a design engineer who spent much of his time in junior school in Zimbabwe, dreaming up crazy product ideas. And growing up in Zimbabwe, Kim saw his peers around him struggling with their personal and professional identities in one of the world's harshest economies. If you're unaware, Zimbabwe experienced hyperinflation in 2008 due to national debt, flagging economy, and just rampant government corruption. At one point, inflation was pegged at 79.6 billion% annually, which meant that every day a Zimbabwean woke up, their money was only worth about half as much as it had been the day before, which is an exponential decline that left the Zimbabwean dollar utterly worthless, but also gave you a nifty side effect that if you want to become a trillionaire, you can buy a $10 trillion Zimbabwe note for about $9.75. Of course, for the people of Zimbabwe, that's no laughing matter, and Kim wanted to help restore not only some economic prosperity to his countrymen, but he wanted to give them some measure of hope for the future. He wanted to help, but what could he do? What was he even capable of doing that would have any sort of lasting impact? How could Kim find his I can? What were his skills? What could he offer? Kim started down a journey, and his journey took him down the path of earning multiple degrees in engineering and product design from universities in England and Colorado as he searched for his I can. And when he returned to the professional world, armed with his new knowledge and skills, he began to believe in his ability to change the world. It was then that Kim pulled back one of his crazy ideas from his childhood and realized that now was the time to make it a reality. That's when Kim started Zimbo ties, which are artisan bow ties made by local craftspeople in Zimbabwe. They're eye-catching, one-of-a-kind pieces that are handmade from upcycled fabrics in Mutare, which is a beautiful city in the heart of the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe. He says that we send out our art into the world to start conversations about the positive impact of creativity and inspiration. They do excellent work. They work with 8 artisans in Zimbabwe who create all their product and packaging by hand with upcycled and recycled materials. They sell their pieces around the world, which allows them to pay tailors up to 5 times the minimum wage in Zimbabwe. So by getting creative and repurposing offcuts of fabric rather than using virgin materials, they've also been able to save about 81,000 liters of water, which is 21,000 gallons in freedom units. That's enough water for more than 2.5 years of daily showers. They've awarded 33 merit-based creativity awards to talented youngsters in Zimbabwe that they hope to inspire to develop their creative skills and thinking to become the next generation of problem solvers, change makers, and innovators in their home country. How did Kim make this jump from engineer to purveyor of bow ties and hope for his community? By reaching back into his memory for a spark and taking that path to find his I can, to understand his skills and what he has to offer. I tracked him down online and I asked him about this, about how he found his I can, how he found that spark. And he said, even though I became a design engineer who could design and make stuff, I came to realize that I didn't really understand much outside of my field of expertise. And as a recovering perfectionist, I also realized that if I didn't jump into just doing something and learning something as I went along, I might spend the rest of my life just being a dreamer instead of a doer. Once I decided I would start something, my motivation for creating Zimbo ties in particular was to inspire fellow Zimbabweans, young and old, to think differently about their own potential and the resources available to them. Kim is a great example of finding your I can, of understanding your true abilities and how you can contribute to the world around you. But that's only a third of the equation. Once you accept that you have the ability to change the world, you have to come to terms with the fact that not only can you change the world, but that you will change the world. I can, I will, I must. And as you did a moment ago, thinking about what you're good at, I want you to stop right now for a moment and ask yourself, where does your will come from? What's driving you? What inspires you? What's your purpose? Because with your purpose comes your power. A long time before I ever dreamed of being a user experience designer or even heard of user experience, I had one goal in mind, and that was to be a writer. Now, there are a million reasons. How will you change the world?